Social Security, Medicare, the two biggest things that the government does, are wildly popular. Medicare, you come from the insurance business, you probably know this. To administer health insurance, there's like 13-15% cost in the administration of that health insurance. For Medicare, 3%. I mean, how can you, as an insurance guy, how can you not understand this?
No,
I don't sit around saying like, you know, I hope that I don't need my fire insurance. I hope I don't. If your kids don't need Social Security, old age insurance, then you know what?
Sam Seder was a guest on Patrick Bet-David's show, and things got heated. Patrick Bet-David pushes his talking points, but Sam Seder exposes the flaws and shuts him down. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. Let's watch.
Money going to the government we do more good with, or money staying in the free market for people to produce more value? Where do you feel values produce more?
Well, I'm not, I mean, I'm not sure I fully get what you're saying, but let me put it in this way.
It's a very simple question.
Well,
I want it to be clear.
Let me make it a little bit more concrete.
Yeah.
So you guys know that the biggest part of the budget, more or less, is Social Security and Medicare, right?
And Medicaid,
And Medicaid.
Entitlement programs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can call them entitlement programs.
They are.
I call them social insurance programs because
Tomato.
That's what they really are.
That's 90% of the budget, I want to say.
No, the military is about $850 billion. Social Security is like $1.7 trillion. I think Medicare is probably close to like $700 billion.
It's about 60%.
And then there's other.
Way more.
It's a high number. It's a big number. You're right. It's a high number.
You'll find that it's. I think our annual budget is somewhere around like $2.7 trillion, and the military is like $800 billion, $900 billion. You know, that you can see anyways, that they show us.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, Social Security, Medicare, the two biggest things that the government does, are wildly popular. Medicare, you come from the insurance business, you probably know this. To administer health insurance, there's like 13-15% cost in the administration of that health insurance. For Medicare, 3%. Far more efficient. And copays are less. I mean, and the whatever you want to call it, consumer satisfaction. I don't like to think of citizens as consumers, but the satisfaction's huge, through the roof, particularly when people use it. It's people appreciate it who don't use it. You know, if I got my parents, they're on Medicare, I'm pretty psyched about it because I don't have to take care of them. My mother's in a nursing home now. It's Medicaid that's doing that. I'm not responsible for that cost. Social Security, through the roof. In fact, I think even a majority of Republicans want to expand.
But popular is not a way to qualify something. If I went out there and if I went to high school and I said, guys, I'm giving dime bags to everybody weed, I'd be a very popular kind of high school. So that is a wrong way to qualify.
You said efficiency.
Yeah.
Medicare, 3% administrative costs versus 15%.
That's like the kid that's running for class president who's like, every Friday we're throwing a pizza party.
Well,
he's going to get everybody's vote. But who's paying for the pizza party?
Well, workers. In fact, I would argue that we should be actually removing the cap on Social Security taxes, because right now, you know, it goes only up to $160,000, right? There's a cap. Traditionally, Social Security has captured or touched 91% of the country's income. You follow me? And now it's somewhere down in like the mid 80s because of wealth inequality.
But your argument on the flip side of it, the argument can be as well to say, well, at the beginning when they came out with Social Security, there's only a few thousand people in America that was actually using it. It was not meant to be for as big of a behemoth of what it is today.
Okay, let's stop right there. Patrick Bet-David is trying to argue that Social Security wasn't meant to be this big. What? That's such a weak line. Of course it's bigger today, because people live longer, because the economy changed, because millions of workers actually pay into it. And Sam Seder makes the point he always hammers home. Social Security and Medicare aren't giveaways, they're insurance programs we all buy into. People love them because they actually work. That's why Republicans constantly dodge the popularity argument, because they know even their own voters want to protect Social Security. Patrick Bet-David wants to frame growth as a negative, but let's be real, it's one of the most successful programs in American history. It lifted seniors out of poverty, it gives families security, and it runs more efficiently than the private sector ever could. Calling that a problem just exposes the game. Patrick's not worried about seniors. He's worried about keeping profits flowing to private insurance and Wall Street.
Oh, that's
It kept
true.
2/3 of our elderly out of poverty. It keeps 2/3 of our
didn't say-
elderly.
Nobody's
that's
arguing the
but
benefits of
that's not
Social
the argument,
Security.
though. That's not the argument. The argument is, originally when it came out, it wasn't for
Well,
the
they couldn't.
bigger percentage.
You had to wait. You had to wait until you build up the
No, you
funds.
didn't have to. You had to have capitalists work and overtax them to be able to fund it. That's what you had to do. But let me go back to the
I think
question.
what you are saying, just to validate your point, I think at that point, this is FDR back in the
Yeah,
day.
we can pull up the data. That's
I think
not
there was
a,
40 workers for every retiree. I think now it's closer to like 3 workers.
Yeah, it's not
Yes, but
sustainable.
So it's not even
productivity-
close.
No, it is sustainable.
You think it's
No,
sustainable.
I don't
not
think it's sustainable. I'm looking at the Social Security
the
Trust
letter,
Fund actuarial
with the
tables.
letter when they sent you this in the Social Security letter, they're telling you if we go this way, this is going to go bankrupt.
No,
in the letter,
no. You're misreading it. The trust fund is going to go bankrupt. In 1981, Greenspan and Reagan expanded the trust fund. We had a surge of baby boomers. There is a trust fund that exists that is essentially like a rainy day fund. That is going to be insolvent around 3033.
2033.
3033.
Sorry,
10
2030.
years.
10
You are correct. I
Yeah.
just had this conversation this past week.
However,
That's not a concern.
However,
that's not a concern.
it is a concern. It will cause 20% in cuts to our
Right.
benefits.
Okay.
But that's it, period. Now, the way that we can get rid of that 20% in cuts in this Social Security Trust Fund is to do what I'm suggesting. Remove the cap so that every dollar you make, even above $160,000,
Yeah, but
is taxed by Social Security.
Sam-
And then your kids
Yeah.
will be long dead before that
Well,
trust fund is out.
hopefully, if I raise my kids right, my kids won't need to be supported
If
by
they
the
don't
government.
need to be,
Yeah.
if they don't
So-
need that social insurance,
Yeah.
look, I mean, how can you, as an insurance guy, how can you not understand this?
No,
I don't sit around saying like, I hope that I don't need my fire insurance. I hope I don't. If your kids don't need Social Security,
Yeah.
old age insurance, then
This part is so good. Sam Seder looks at Patrick Bet-David, the guy who literally sold insurance for a living, and tells him straight, Social Security is old age insurance. Same idea as fire insurance. You don't pay your premiums hoping your house burns down. You pay so if disaster happens, you're covered. Social Security works the same way. We all pay in while we're working, and when we retire, it's there to protect us. And here's why this hits so hard. Patrick can't argue against it without sounding ridiculous. If he admits Sam's right, then he admits the government can run a program that's fair, popular, and more efficient than private companies. That kills his whole free market script. And the truth is, the public already knows this. Polls show even a majority of Republicans want Social Security protected, not cut. So Sam not only shuts him down, he puts Patrick on the opposite side of the people he claims to represent.
you know what?
But
we will tax the money back.
I am better for society. I am better for society if I find ways to get people off of needing any of this stuff than to rely on it more and more and more, because I'm truly hurting those who are creating commerce. That's who I'm hurting. But let me go back to my
Hold
question.
on for one second.
Wait a minute.
We had an experiment with
But
this.
wait a
Hold on,
minute.
let me just
Let me
finish
ask
the
the
Social
question
Security
for you. Let me
question.
ask the question. You still haven't answered my
401ks.
question for me. No, wait.
401ks
you
with a
still
private solution.
You still haven't answered my question. Let me go back to the question to you. So
Okay.
my question at the beginning, you have not yet answered.
Okay.
Okay. When you said, I would go back to the old tax system and I would take it to the 50s and 60s where we had a 90%. Okay. And I asked you a question. I said, who do you think produces more value? I gave the example of the Humvee, the pieces in the Army, how much we were paying, $600, but the piece was only $40. And the government tends to overspend because they're reckless spending. They're not really held accountable. Does money going in free market create more value, or money going to the government create more value for people?
Explain to me what you mean by value.
Okay, so value to me is, if I can give money to free market and lower taxes where they can go create more jobs, more opportunities, Is that better for us long term, or is it better for us to raise taxes, to take away incentives, and give that money, tax money, goes to politicians to make decisions what to do with the money? Are politicians better at making decisions on what to do with our money, or are we?
I mean, I guess on in a broad way, I would say if we're going to look at the biggest chunk of money in the government to make this assessment, right? $1.7 trillion, Social Security. And we can compare it to the one sort of like comparable thing in the private sector, and that's a 401k. I would have to say, I mean, just based upon the way you've set up this question, that obviously the government.
The most telling thing here is that Patrick Bet-David had no real answer. Every time Sam Seder pressed him, Patrick either dodged or changed the subject. Meanwhile, Sam kept it simple. Medicare is efficient, Social Security is insurance, and people actually like these programs. That's why Patrick looked lost. And look, this isn't just a debate trick. It's the reality. Even a majority of Republicans say, don't cut Social Security. So when Patrick tries to downplay it, he's not just arguing with Sam Seder, he's arguing with the American people. So what do you think? Was Patrick making sense, or did Sam Seder completely expose him? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like if you want to see more, and subscribe for the next one.